Today, I'll be giving you a brief review of the Icom Id-5100A. Stick around. Hey, Steve here, K4SRF. Recently, I had my Kenwood 7010G mobile radio get doused with water and shorted out and killed the radio. And to be honest with you, I love that radio, but I had to replace it. So I looked around, did a little research, and I decided to go ahead and purchase the Icom Id-5100A. And I don't think I made a bad judgment call at all. There are many things about this radio I like, and there's a couple of things that I'm not too happy with, and we'll get into those. But for the most part, I've enjoyed the 5100A. I've been running it in my car for several weeks now. The radio itself is very similar to the Icom 7100 as far as the display goes and the programming. Now, also another reason I chose an Icom 5100A is I do have other Icom radios. I've got the Id-5200 or 52A, that is handheld. I've got a MERS and a GMRS Icom radio. Plus, I also have the 7100. I've got a history with Icom radios, and I've enjoyed them, so I figured I'd go ahead and give the 5100A a shot as my next mobile radio. Now, I'm going to go over some of the features of the Id-5100A. Not too many. I'm not going to get into a deep dive, as there are many other videos out there that cover these different features in this radio, and I can't see any sense in covering the same material over. But I did say there was one thing. I said a couple of things. There's actually one thing that I really am not too happy with this radio, and I wish Icom would do something about it, but apparently the radio's been on the market for so long and they're not going to fix it. And that has to do with the display. When I mounted the control head in my vehicle itself, it was fine. It was perfectly fine. I'd done it in the garage. Car was in the garage, and I had no problem seeing the display itself. However, I did notice within the first 24 hours when I was on the road, the display washed out. It's a monochrome display, white and black, or shades of gray, whatever you want to call it. It does have contrast variable, but no matter how I played with that, I couldn't quite resolve the problem. Again, in bright sunlight, I would notice that the whole front control display would fade out. It wouldn't go out completely. I would just have to look at it from a certain angle in order to be able to read it and make sure I was on the right frequency or make changes or whatever. And obviously when you're driving, that's not a safe procedure. So I had to figure out how I was going to fix this. Like I said, I researched and found that this was a common complaint with this particular radio. So after researching, I couldn't really come up with a good solution to it. I made sure that the firmware was up to date, hoping they may have corrected the issue. What I found was it depends on how I angled the control head itself. If the control head was facing at just a slight angle towards me, the driver, it would get washed out, so I need more of an angle to it. So I decided to go with a different type of mounting system, which I'll show you when I visit the car here. But once I did that, I've noticed that I have no problem with the display head or the visibility display head. In fact, I really like the way I've got it mounted now, because it's the ease of access to the controls and the radio itself is just far better than it was before. But that was my only complaint, was the control head, the display, monochrome, fades out in bright sunlight. And as I've read also, they say don't mount this control head in direct sunlight because you will lose your display completely. And I'm not going to mount it in direct sunlight, so that's not going to be an issue. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the computer here, and I'm going to show you some of the features that this particular radio offers. As I said, it's not a brand new radio. It's been on the market for quite a while now, several years, but it seems to be a very popular radio. It's got some fine ratings. So let's go ahead and check the computer out, check out these specs, then we'll go visit the vehicle. I purchased my Icom Id-5100 from DS Engineering. However, other manufacturers, other distributors like Gigaparts or Ham Radio Outlet, I believe, has them as well. They all handle these, and they all run about $439.95. Again, these are not brand new radios. They've been out for a while. But I chose the Icom 5100 because I do have several other Icom radios. And one thing I did notice, it's incredibly, the faceplate and where you can program it is incredibly similar to the Icom 7100, which I have as well. And I use that as a base station. Um, Again, they're all 439, regardless of what distributor you get them from. They are a nice looking radio. The only problem I have with the radio itself, not the radio mainly, but this display, and I've seen several other people comment on this as well, that in bright sun, the faceplate here will become washed out. And they say if you keep it in direct sunlight long enough, it will fade it out to the point where you have to replace the faceplate. I don't have mine mounted in the car in direct sunlight, so I don't have to worry about that. But I did notice when I did mount it in the car, facing at a certain angle during certain parts of the day, I could not see the faceplate at all unless I turned my head and tilted my head and looked at it and squinted. And that's definitely not safe when you're driving. So I wasn't happy with that. So I found a new place to mount it, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But that's my only complaint about this radio itself, is the fact that the faceplate does wash out in bright sunlight, and you'd think maybe by now they would have fixed something or done something with that, even though the contrast levels do not seem to improve things greatly. But all in all, it's a good radio, detachable faceplate. Taking a look at it here. There we go. It's great. You got your power. You've got your two speakers. Your data port is right here where you can connect that up to your computer when you're programming it. You got your antenna output there. In front of the radio, you have your microphone and data port, and you also have a spot for, controller. This goes to the controller. I'm sorry. This is the microphone. Now, what I had to do, though, is because I've got this radio mounted in the trunk of my car, the base in the trunk and the head in the front of the car, I did have to purchase some extension cables for the controller and the microphone itself. Not that cheap. I probably could have gone with just standard RJ45 or J11, whatever, but I didn't want a chance messing up in case the pinouts were different than Icom. I didn't want a chance messing up the radio itself. Right here, you can put your SD card in. It helps you keep repeater list or store QSOs, or if you want to record QSOs. Basically, all in all, a very nice radio itself. Okay, let's go over some of the specifications on this radio itself. Obviously, it goes without saying, Icom 5100A Deluxe. It actually has receive range from 118 to 174, so you can pick up aircraft frequencies. That's range 1. Range 2 is 375 to 550 UHF frequencies, VHF, UHF. And it's basically has a lot of good features in it, a lot of them that I'm probably not going to be able to use itself. I'm not going to go ahead and read every single one of these things. You can just glance at them, or actually go to DX Engineering or any site that sells the 5100. You can get the specifications there. Maximum output is 50 watts, which I like. Minimum output is 5 watts. That is adjustable. You can permanently, the head is permanently separated, so you can't combine the head to the base of the unit itself. It's permanently separated and designed for off-base installation itself. Band ranges, I'll just go through those real quick. 2 meter band, we've got 144 to 148, and 77 meters is 430 to 450. So let's go ahead and take a look at it mounted in my car.
I've mounted my Icom 5100 on a Lido mount in the center of the vehicle here. I'm using the Lido mount that's mounted to the actual floorboard itself. I'll show you that in a minute. But I put the radio on top, and below that I have my Garmin GPS. This vehicle is an older model, doesn't have a built-in GPS, and I am on the road, so I went ahead and just mounted the GPS right below it. And it's very easy to get to. I can have my arm on the armrest and get up and just lean up and adjust the radio or work with the GPS if I need to without really having to take my eyes off the road at all. I've got the microphone mounted right to the right of the GPS itself. I'm using another pole mount, or an attachment for the pole, that is, to mount that. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that there or not. This is kind of an experiment, so I'll decide that later on. But right now, for now, this location is perfect. And one thing I had to do, though, is, and the reason I got this mount, is I had to take the head of the GPS, I'm sorry, the Icom 5100. As I stated before, the thing I don't like about, the only thing I don't like about it is the faceplate washes out in bright sunlight. And I have noticed that in this car before when it's faced the other direction. But angled towards me like this, I've not had that problem. And I've driven it now for a couple of weeks in very bright sunlight and have never seen the screen wash out. So I think I may have solved that problem for now. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to show you where I've got the base mount of the base unit, that is, for my Icom 5100 mounted. Then we'll go take a look at the Lido mount from the other side there. I have the base unit for my Icom 5100 mounted in the trunk of the car. It's actually just sitting here. There's a piece of fabric blocking it so it doesn't slide around at all. I've got to do a little wire management here. I'm not quite through with that, but I've got it mounted here. I've had it mounted here for a while and never had a bit of problem with it. It doesn't overheat. You can't even hear the fan, though I've never really heard the fan to begin with. You're wondering if it's going to get wet or anything like that. It's really not going to get wet. And if you really want to, you can go ahead and get a container, some sort of container to put it in. But for me, I've found that if you put a container in here, it's just going to take up more space. And right now, if you're just careful what you put in your trunk, you shouldn't have any issue at all. I've mounted the 5100 as well as the GPS on a faceplate that's on a ball joint, or ball head, that is, on the Lido mount, which allows me to adjust the angle of both the radio and the GPS itself to better suit my visibility. And as you can see, on the lower left there is the microphone. Again, I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it there. It'll just have to do for now. But this mount's great on this Lido mount, and if you haven't used Lido mounts before, this particular one, the LMAX, I highly recommend it because they advertise it as low vibration, and that's what it is. It's very low vibration. But going back to the radio and the mount, that's the way I've done it. As I said, I can adjust it easily by just moving the head. The whole faceplate itself can adjust it. I can view at different angles the radio and GPS. Also, I can have my arm laying on that armrest there and just reach up, and I'm able to adjust the radio or mess with the GPS if I need to. And I've got no problem with it mounted here. This may be a permanent mount here for this particular radio and GPS. Okay, this is just a demonstration of how easy this is to operate from here. I've got my arm on the armrest here, and I just one hand don't even have to look up. I can turn the radio on, which I normally do before I leave anyway. But if I want to, I can operate the different bands here. Volume control here, and also I can switch frequencies if I want, or I've got all the controls right here. I can go to back to D star if I want to, come off of D star if I want. I can switch from subband to main band that easily. Microphone's right here. I just pick up the microphone, got it, putting it back. It's real quick, it just hangs right there. Again, I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it right here, but for now it's going to do. I've got all my functions right here, all my different buttons, or whatever you want to call them, touchpads to get to. I'm not going to go into all these different features. There's other videos out there that cover all the different features of this radio. And like I said, the radio itself is not brand new, so but I just wanted to basically show you the ease of operation, where I could sorry about that, let you see the ease of operation from where I've got it mounted here. One hand, microphone, get to the GPS, which is off right now, but I can just get to all the controls here. Everything's fine. The display itself is not washed out, surprisingly.
on. Sorry about that again. The display itself is not washed out at all in this position. When I had it facing this way towards the back of the car, I could see it, but if it got really bright, this whole display would go completely blank. I couldn't see anything, and I had to squint to see it, and that's too distracting when you're driving. You don't need to be distracted when you're driving. You need to have something that's right visible to you, and this position right here seems to work very well for me, so I think I'll keep it in this position. Again, I'm not going to go over the different features of the radio itself. I just want to show you how easy it is to go to the different get the different features if I needed to. Microphone, the ease of access is what I'm trying to focus on at this point. So this is where I have it.
Well, that's my brief review of the Icom Id-5100A. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope that I've given you some ideas on how to mount this radio in your vehicle to minimize any washed out display problems that you might encounter itself. If you have any suggestions on how you might have mounted it, leave your suggestions below or comments below anyway. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so and click that bell to be notified of upcoming videos. And until next time, this is Steve. Kilo 4, Sierra Romeo Foxtrot, 73.